All right, so our next exercise is Chapter 2, Exercise 6, known as the journal bracket. This is a couple of parallel lines, a few radiuses in here. Fairly simple geometry to do. However, there are a couple of points, again, that we have to really kind of spell out and specify so we know that it is where we need it to be when we're doing this. So as you take a look at this, um, there are a couple of datum points that I could work off of. And of course, every person is slightly different when they start these out. I can start my datum in the lower left-hand corner of this bracket and make that my 0, 0, or I could really start out in the center of that 180-degree arc that's in the middle that everything's coming off of. So in this case, right now, I think I'm going to start off of the uh, lower left-hand corner, use my line tool, just to kind of start to put some things in here and help you start to think about how you need to look at the print and add and subtract some of the dimensions to get you what you want. So let's go ahead and get this started. So I'm going to go in again, click on the arrow. So make sure you use the right template, whether it's a metric or imperial. In this case, we're dealing in inches, so that's going to be our imperial template. So go ahead and click on that so that you can start up and bring in your drawing. We're going to do the same thing that we do normally, where we'll set the units, make sure that everything is good to go, then we'll set our layer properties. So all of those good habits at the start of the drawing that we need to put into practice. So type in units. So bring this up. Notice I'm architectural format right now. I want that to be decimal, and I want this to be a 3-place decimal instead of 4. In my object snaps, at this point, you can set some if you want. We know that we're going to have an endpoint, probably some intersections, maybe the quadrant, maybe center. So you could think about maybe a midpoint or two, depending. But we don't necessarily need to turn them all on. We can turn them on as we go. We don't need polar tracking at the moment, although honestly, if I turn polar tracking on, it will make things a little bit easier as I do this. So, and you'll see what I mean. So I'm going to go polar tracking. Our preferences, again, that's up to you, whether you want light or dark theme, whether you want the drawing ribbon up above like it is in the normal regular version of AutoCAD, or whether you want it in the properties pages. So either way, click done to begin. So we're there with that. I'm going to go to my layers properties. We'll set up the different line type layers. So hidden lines, which I'm going to make green. So we'll select that layer and then come back and change the line type to hidden. Another layer, click the plus again for the next one, construction line. So I'm going to make the construction lines red. So if I click on that, construction line is going to be continuous. Let's go back up to another layer. In this case, I'm going to do center lines. Center lines are going to be red as well. Go back and activate the center line layer and change that line type to our center lines. Okay. Last of the 5 layers that we construct here, we've got our center line, hidden line, construction lines, and we want our dimension lines. So we're going to mark and change that color to the cyan, light blue. And when I activate that, I'll just make sure those are continuous lines. Notice again too, all of our line weights are default, which is what we want it to be. So I'm good with all my layers. Now I'm ready to start drawing here on the object line layer. All right. And I'm going to start at 0, 0. Now I already mentioned that the 0, 0, our datum point that we make at 0, 0 on this drawing is going to be the lower left-hand corner. So I'm going to type enter. Notice I'm getting a line length of 1,549. So we're zoom way out. So kind of pan out and zoom in to kind of bring this closer and closer. So this is what I'm using my roller track button for, and I just kind of click. So let's cancel out of this, and let's do a zoom, enter E for zoom extents. So where we kind of bring that back in a little closer to see what we're doing here. And sometimes I have noticed I can also do a zoom enter window enter, and then I can kind of come in here real close and window in, so I bring that in even closer, and you'll notice I kind of canceled out on that line. So let's try again here with that line. So I'm going to go to my line. So, and again, this first line is going to be at 0, 0, my origin point, and I'll hit enter. Now, the line length on this one, notice now I'm way zoomed in, but that's okay because this is going to be 0.25, quarter of an inch up. So, okay. Now I can start to zoom out a little bit if I need to, taking a look at where I'm at and where that comes over. Notice I went up first. Now I'm going to come back over, and we got to look at some of our lines. Now, if you look at the outside dimension of 5 inches, I've got 2 inches there in the middle. Or if we look at half of this model, I'm from that center point out is 2.5 inches. So basically this point right here is 2.5 inches. If I were to go over and draw a line right now at 2.5 inches, that would be to the center of where we want to go. And in this case, we're not going all the way to the center of that arc. We are going over the side. So we got to do a little subtraction here. We got that 1 inch. The arc itself is a 1 inch radius. So I got to subtract 1 inch from that 2.5. So that's going to leave me 1.5 inches. So here's my 1.5 inches. But I'm still not all the way there because I'm also another quarter of an inch over. So I got to move this back, and the line length that we're going to draw here is 1.25. And it's going to be at 0 degrees. So I'm going to tab 0 and enter to place that line. Now you have to understand and have to be reading and looking at these prints to see where I'm getting that from. So pay close attention. Now, again, going all the way to the top outside edge of the part, the overall dimension on this is 2.75. That's the height of the part. But at this point here, I'm already 250 thousandths up from that. So I'm going to now draw a line where I take that 2.75 dimension on the left-hand side of your print and subtract the quarter of an inch. So that means this line length is going to be 2.5. And it's going to be at 90 degrees. So I'm going to hit tab, 90, and enter to place this line. Now, again, we know that that line goes farther, that it stops somewhere down here where it's chamfered. But we don't really know exactly where that line ends unless we wanted to do the math, which I don't think any of us at this point really want to do that math. So we're going to kind of come back in now. We're at the very top of the part. So I'm somewhere out here about 40, whatever the line length of that 45 degrees would be, comes in over here. And then we've got a 1.25 line. And then we got that chamfer and whatever the length of that chamfer is too. So we're going to see if we can solve what the overall length of that line without the chamfer would be. Well, if I follow back to the diameter of that arc, or the radius of that arc, so we know we've got 2 inch dimension there. And then we've got the walls of this are a quarter of an inch on both sides. So that would be 2 inches plus a quarter inch plus a quarter inch. So the line length here is going to be 2.5. 2.5. I'm going to tab over, make sure that that is 0 degrees. I'm going to click enter to go down. Now I got some other stuff that I can start to solve this for. All right. So again, same line length here. So in this case, so let me zoom back in. notice we're going to go to the same point. These should be in line with each other. And that line length again was 2.5. And I'm going to tab over, make sure this is 90 degrees, and enter. Now, and this line length is 1.25. Remember how we got that. So from before, 1.25, tab 0, enter. Come back down this way, 0.25, tab 90 degrees, enter. And we can come back at this point, the 1.5. Where am I getting that 1.5? Take 5 inches, the dimension shown on the bottom of your print, the overall length, 5 inches minus that 2 inches. It leaves us with 3, and we got an equal amount on both sides, so we got to divide that by 2, which leaves us with 1.5. So tab, I want to make sure I'm at 180, and enter. Okay. Now I can go back up because I see that from there I go back up 1.5 and enter. Okay. So I'm going to right click and cancel at this point. So we can see where that's at. Now I'll go back to the line here. We're going to fill off this side. So this side here should also be 1.5. Tab here, this has to be 0. Enter. And again, we're going to go right back up to this point. That line will be 1.5, 2, so 1.5. Tab 90, enter. I'm going to right click and cancel out of that as well, because now we've got an arc here somewhere. Don't know yet how. We're going to have to kind of figure out how to generate that arc and that circle as well. So let's go into our circle tool here. Okay, let's try this 2-point circle. So I want the first endpoint of the circle's diameter. Well, I'm going to click here. I'm going to move there, and that gave me my circle. So let me go ahead and trim that out. There we go, trimming that. And this is a good time to come up and save this. So we still have a couple of things to do. So we're going to save. So I'm going to save this as journal bracket, capital J and a capital B, no space, hyphen first and last, and hit save. So now we've got that saved. Now we're going to do 2 other tools. So one is the fillet tool, which we've got a 1/4 inch radius. So I'm going to click on my fillet tool. Now notice the first thing that it really wants is it says select first object or the radius. Now I'm always going to tell you set your radius first. So I'm going to go R, enter, and we're going to specify the radius. Number 1, if you didn't do this, notice right now down here our radius is set at 0. So if you just started to pick a side, it wouldn't come out right. So you got to set your dimension of your radius first. And in this case, it's going to be a 1/4 inch, so 0.25, enter. Now I can come up here and select this leg and that leg. Notice how it puts the radius in. I'm going to do the same thing here. Select this leg and that leg. I got my radius in there. Oh, didn't do it, so hit escape twice. So it exited from the command in here. So let's right click, repeat last command. Notice the last command was a fillet. So let's go back here again, radius, enter. It is 0.25 already, so I can just go, we'll go ahead and go 0.25 and enter. Now I'm going to select this object line and that object line, and we're in. Good. Escape twice to get out of that command. Now we're going to do the same thing on our chamfer. So here's our chamfer. Now, when we're talking about the chamfer, it wants to know several things: polyline, distance, angle. In this case, we'll select the angle. And our angle is going to be 45 degrees. So we'll hit that enter. So now I'm going to select the first line and a second.